I'm sitting in my bed reading, and I have my head down. And I was saying something to my mom, and I turned my head and looked toward the doorway, and I saw someone standing there. When I was in second grade, my family moved into the house that was built by my grandfather. My dad was one of 8 children and lived in a house that my grandfather was building. My grandfather was a store clerk in the city of DuQuoin, Illinois, and he was working late one night after the store had closed, and he was killed in a store robbery. So my dad told me that one time he and 2 of his brothers, they all shared a room, and they saw their dad standing in the doorway looking at them one morning after he had passed away. And all 3 of them acknowledged that they saw him there. When we lived in the house, I never really felt that there was a presence. My mom talked about things like the silverware or dishes rattling in the kitchen, but none of us ever heard that or saw that. And she didn't want to talk about it. She didn't want to scare us and make us afraid to live in the house. But when we moved back to DuQuoin when I was in second grade, we moved into my grandparents' house because my grandmother had cancer and was in the hospital. She had cancer for 2 years because when I was in 4th grade, she died from cervical cancer. And it was probably around the time that I was in 5th grade. I was in my house. My mom was in the kitchen. No one else was actually in the house, just myself in my bedroom, my mom in the kitchen, just a few feet away. But far away enough that I had to actually raise my voice and say things like, "Mom, Mom, can you bring me a snack or whatever?" So as I'm talking to my mom and I'm having a conversation with her, I'm in my room and I'm looking. I'm sitting in my bed reading, and I have my head down, and I was saying something to my mom, and I turned my head and looked toward the doorway, and I saw someone standing there in a red shirt. It was that polyester ribbed kind of shirt, and it was red, and I just happened to glance up, and I said, "Oh, there you are," and I was talking to her, and I looked back down at my book, and when I looked back up again, there was no one there. So I said, "Mom, I'm talking to you." And from the kitchen, she says, "What?" And I said, "You were just in my room. I was just talking to you." And she said, "No, I'm in the kitchen." So I went to the kitchen and I said, "Weren't you just in my room?" And she said, "No, I was not in your room." I said, I looked at her, and she's not wearing a red shirt, but I clearly saw a woman in a red shirt standing at the doorway. I felt like that was her way of letting me know that she was there watching out for me. It just gave me a feeling of peace. It wasn't scary. I would expect if I saw a ghost, it would be frightening. I think things like that are kind of scary. I've never actually come face to face with a ghost that I knew was a ghost at the time. Had I turned and looked at her and realized it was my grandmother, I probably would have been a bit frightened to see her there. But I wasn't. I just turned and saw a body and thought it was my mom and was just talking. And then afterward, when I realized it wasn't my mom, I don't know of anyone else. My grandfather built the house, so no one else had lived in the house but my grandparents and his siblings. So in my mind, that was my grandmother that was standing there. The eyes play tricks on the mind all the time. But for me to see that, I don't know if I can express to you how real it was, but I knew it was real. Just living it, seeing it happen, I didn't make that up.